Hi guys, welcome to the Improvement Season podcast. It's me, Steve Hall, and on the other end is Pascal Floor, looking
Magnum.
very, very dapper.
Magnum.
What
now.
did you say?
Magnum.
Magnum. Pascal Magnum. Magnum. Where would you place that in your name?
You don't know Magnum? TV show from the 80s?
I think, is it?
I think wasn't it? Was it 80s?
Cartoon?
No. What's his name again? Oh man, I'm embarrassing myself even. Magnum. Wait a second, I have to Google it now. Of course the ice cream comes up.
All I was thinking was the ice cream. I was
no. Tom Selleck. Man,
okay.
Best mustache there has been in the TV business.
Is he the same actor who was in Friends? Because there's a guy in Friends, I can't remember his name, but he got with Monica, and he was like older.
Could be.
He had a great mustache as well.
Could be.
People listening will probably know who I mean.
I've watched Friends when I was young, but I can't really recall, to be honest. But for bodybuilders, you can also call me C-Bomb now. I mean, let's be real here.
How C-Bum didn't even have as thick a moustache as you've got. You beat him in the anabolic moustache.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. It is very, very thick indeed. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm glad
Genetics.
I'm not rocking mine now because mine pales in comparison. And it's like you said, like you just realize how many genetics is just ridiculous as a topic as a whole. Like how many things it influences. One of my clients was just asking me, like, how do you know if you have good genetics? Like, what would you do? And I was like, man, that's a multifaceted question because it's down to like. I even took it down the road of like your personality is majorly impacted by your genetics. And do you have a personality that is like good for bodybuilding, kind of quote unquote good? And I would say someone who's a bit more introverted, less social, happy, having like less things going on in their life. It's probably a bit more kind of better for bodybuilding. Obviously you can control that a little bit. Anyway, I'd end up getting on a side tangent, but it just impacts so much you don't even realize.
Yeah, absolutely. What do I want to say? Something with the mustache as well. Can't really recall. Totally lost my train of thought.
Did you get quark stuck in it?
Not yet. Probably is about to happen at some point. And that is very, very disgusting and annoying, to be honest. And it will happen, but... Well, these are the things that we put ourselves through, right?
You get the protein shake.
Now I know what I want to say. I think I am living in the wrong decade and also am following the wrong occupation. I was supposed to be a cop in the 70s in San Francisco or New York, wearing like a very, very tight uniform shirt and driving or riding a motorbike. You know that typical... Yeah. That typical cop in the US, like those, what is it called? Aviator glasses.
Oh, yeah.
Jet helmet on, super, super tight shirt, uniform shirt, right? Bicep a little bit popping out, and then that mustache. I was supposed to actually live through that time and having that occupation. But here we are, 2022, shit is going down, working from at home, stuff like that.
That reminds me of that podcast hasn't come out yet, but I think it's the next one with Charlie and Mike, and they were ripping into me because I think I had a moustache at the time, and they maybe were ripping into me about being like a cop, and they need to just see you because now that's someone they can actually rip into.
I think though when the seminar is happening on the, by the way, still is it the 5th of June? 4th and 5th of June, so you can still get your tickets. I think that. At that time, my mustache will be much, much longer already, and I will not look like a cop. I will probably look like a hipster bartender or so.
Yes. Especially
or a barber,
for some reason,
hipster barber.
And the tattoos kind of work with that as well. Yeah, they just add to the look. You just have to wear, I don't know what clothes they wear, but just wear some
often
clothes.
Like old school classy, like Gatsby style. Something like this, you know, like that coat over just like a normal shirt, and the shirt bottomed up, and maybe then also something like, I don't know, something else, but more so classic.
I could see you wearing that.
Yeah, could possibly Yeah, but the thing is, when you are a little bit more muscular, you don't really fit into those kind of clothing anymore, which is unfortunate.
The Legend London jeans would work into that as well.
That's true.
The black jeans.
That is true. Yeah. So, Steve, it has been 2 weeks now, ever since we've spoken the last time. I would assume lots of things happened on your end with holiday. How was it? How was the trip to Bude, and what did you do?
So, the first thing that comes to mind is I don't feel like I had a holiday. Because the reason for that is traveling to Bude takes a long time. So it's like a 5-hour drive, and that's if there's no hiccups and it's not a bank holiday. So actually it took 9 hours to get home, like driving on the way back. So that's a whole day gone, basically, or at least half a day gone. And it's half a day gone driving there. So then we only had like a few days over there, and I felt like I could have done with more time. But it was nice, and the weather was good, which is really nice. Bude is a like seaside little town, so that was really nice. And they had their little warehouse gym, so it was really nice to be able to kind of walk down there and train over there and get that done. Try some different foods, so I was kind of enjoying the Cornwall foods, because last time I went down there I was in prep. I think I'd done like one show, so I think Charlotte's mum was telling me, she was like, last time we got fish and chips, but I just got I had boiled potato. I had boiled potato, and I got them to steam cod for me, so I didn't have like all the fat basically, and the good part of it is fish and chips. I was like being involved, but without being involved. Like boiled potato and steamed fish. So it was nice to kind of enjoy some of that a bit more, and it was good. I enjoyed the time.
Where are you sitting at right now in terms of body weight?
So, I weighed myself, and actually this morning I was my all-time high. So I'm not into the 190 pounds yet, but I was 189 pounds.
All-time high.
No. All-time off-season high, sorry.
Yeah. So
otherwise
this time all-time high. Yeah. I was already like, what? You're close to 200 pounds already?
Yeah, no. I'm like 10 pounds away from that now, so it's not too far away. I'm on track, right within kind of the rate of gain that I wanted to be, so... I was pleased for that, because I pushed calories. I was estimating stuff like chips and like fish and chips. Fuck knows. I don't know exactly how many calories that has. Maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's 2,000, somewhere in around there. I was a bit more active when I was over in Bude as well. So, I managed to, I'm kind of happy. It's been a long time since I've been this way, but in those sort of occasions, I would have quite often restricted myself. And so I would have under-eaten and potentially even fallen into a deficit on such a weekend, because I would have been like, oh man, I'm having fish and chips. I need to make sure I just eat like protein and veggies and fruit the rest of the day. But I didn't. I ate my normal food and actually overate to what I normally would, because I knew how active, I was doing 15 to 20,000 steps every single day whilst I was over there, which is more than I normally get. So I'm glad my weight has continued to move in the right direction, because that's the way it should be. How many is that over stage? So like 170, let's say that was my stage weight. So like 20 pounds, 20? Yeah, 20 pounds almost over stage now, about that. So I think feeling good. How's things on your end?
Wait a second before we actually move over to me. In terms of then relaxing a little bit, I mean, we've talked about it so often. And I mean, the Improvement Season podcast, earlier Revised to Stage, is all about our journey. Our lifting endeavors and everything that we went through and are still going through in the future. And I think that it speaks for itself of the development that we've both made. And this is one of those things as well. I think that with experience, and you always bring up like experience cures anxiety, this is one of those factors as well. When you're then going out, you become more and more relaxed, because you know that you can control your environment to some extent. Even if you can't really track it to a high extent, you know that what's the likelihood that you're then ending up with 500 to 1,000 calories in a surplus? It's very unlikely when you're eating in a reasonable manner, right? And also then having like a more mindful approach to then the portion size, and having more like a normal person approach to then the way of eating, instead of then going with only your hunger, for example, such as many people do, and then they are ravenously hungry, go in there and have like 2 boxes of fish and chips instead of having like 1 box. Yeah, no shit, you're probably going to over your calories for the day. But if you have a reasonable approach to everything, what's the likelihood that you're then going to exceed the calories by a lot? It's probably not going to happen. Maybe then you're off by 100, 200, or 300 calories. But does this really make that much of a difference? No. If you're doing this on a continuous basis, then yes.
Yeah, that is a good example, because I used to, in some instances, recommend people, and sometimes I still do, but I'm a little bit more on a different opinion on this, where I'd be like, oh yeah, you can like save bank calories for then knowing you're going to have more calories. But quite often I find that sets people up for overindulging and feeling really ravenous going into the event. Whereas I'm like, if you maybe save a little, or you just eat to normal and then you go into that day, maybe you overeat. And if you do, maybe you just pull back the days after, rather than kind of setting yourself up for that. Like you said, if I'd kind of really restricted myself through the day for the fish and chips, there was like a shed load of chips. I could have eaten way more chips than was there. And I had a good portion, and there was like double the amount left. I could have, like, if I was starving, ravenous, I would have just eaten them, because they're freaking delicious. Like, proper fish and chips are like I don't eat chips very often, but those chips, like big, chunky, soft, loads of salt and vinegar on, yeah, they are very good.
This is, though, one of the reasons why I sometimes find it hard to give a proper advice to even some of my athletes, because it isn't black or white, or in the sense of like, do this, so save up macros, then you have that outcome. Because there goes so many things into that. So the learning about the person, so what type of person that is, what option is probably better suited for them. Is it banking up calories for their psychology, or isn't it, right? And it's actually quite hard to then give a proper recommendation. And sometimes I even find myself on saying like, there is no right or wrong answer. It's actually then going down to personal preferences when it comes to those kind of things. And I know that, so I'm conflicted myself, because as a coach, you should be more like the guide, and often even the one who's making the choices, because people want someone to take that load and burden off of their chest and shoulders.
Yeah, it's I sometimes feel bad for this. I don't think you should, though, where I often say like, my best guess, I will say it like this, my best guess, because everything we do is a guess, can be a very good guess because we're well educated, have a lot of experience, such and such. But it's my best guess is to go down this route. What do you think to that? And I kind of explain to them why it's a guess and why I do think that way. But then I'm very open, because like a lot of people know themselves better than what you can possibly know them. It's, in some instances, it's like, should you take a deload next week? Like, it's not always just a black and white yes or no. Sometimes there's indicators like that, but sometimes it's a discussion with your athlete in terms of how confident are you about overloading for another week? Does it make sense for your lifestyle to deload this next week? Or maybe does it make sense to like push it another week? And again, how high is your confidence that you can keep progressing and feeling good in the gym? Like those sort of factors. And it's actually just like a question that came on my Instagram just now, is like, should you take a diet break, or like just pre-program it, or should you try and push until you need one? And my my initial response is like, I think you should probably take it before you need one. But some people, like probably yourself, Pascal, myself, experienced dieters, some people we've worked with for a long time, we can have confidence that they know themselves and what position they're in. And we have that confidence in ourselves where we wouldn't just take one for the sake of taking one, like a pre-programmed deload. We'd kind of assess the situation and we'd know whether or not it's a good idea. Whereas some people, probably people less experienced, they're just better off taking the deload or taking the diet break, because it's probably going to prevent an injury, or could prevent an injury, or like a binge or something worse happening. But like you said, there's no black and white answer. It's kind of like, it depends, which is every fit pro's favorite answer.
And I think that this is where then experience pays off as not only a coach, but also a professional in every kind of field. No matter of whether you're a doctor or kind of a plumber, you've seen so many different outcomes from the mean, and you don't just have to rely on then what the science says, but you can actually then fall back onto on the anecdotes and your experiences, because otherwise I think both you and I, back then when we didn't really have as much is there a fly? Where we didn't really have that much experience, and probably there's still questions where that is the case, we were always then reverting back and falling back to then what does the science say? So what does the average outcome say, and what is the solution for that outcome? And now we can always be a little bit more nuanced because we have that real life experience as well.
Absolutely. So yeah, it's great because you probably have it the same way, Pascal. The weekend I've just had is something that for a lot of my clients would cause quite a lot of stress because they're like, oh, it's Easter weekend. There's expectations of me to like enjoy, drinking or food or whatever it is. And it's nice because like, for one, I can be a bit of an example in that case and like talk people through it and be like, this is how and they like seeing that too. They're like, oh, not only are you advising me something similar, but you're doing that. Like there's proof in the pudding, and or like you're an example for your clients in that sense, which is nice. Because I work with quite a few who probably are like most people coach people who are similar to themselves, but a bit earlier in this thing. And so it's nice kind of coaching those people through things. And then they're like, oh, wow, like I can go and enjoy this time with no stress. It doesn't hold me back. It actually propels me forward. So that's what, these weekends now do for me. So it was good to have the break. And I guess it's another good reminder that like life just, I don't know, like if I'm not as active on social media or my clients don't have me for a week, like things don't burn down, it's fine. Like things just tick on. Totally cool. So it was a nice reminder there from like a business perspective that like you can take that time. And something I also actually kind of reinforced for me is if I put less out into the world in terms of social media, I get less back because sometimes I feel like I should be continuously pumping out content and things. And I think, oh yeah, I can do that because I'm on holiday. But little do I realize it brings a load of kind of people respond and things like this. And so it automatically means I'm on it more. Whereas I was having some issues uploading stuff and I was like, oh, I'm just not going to post that much. And I was like, oh, this is really nice. I don't feel obliged to go and check how is my content doing or like has someone replied to my story. So that was good. Like a bit of a learning.
It's actually very interesting because I'm always finding myself to be in a much, much better situation from a mental perspective if I'm not constantly in front of a screen, i.e., now computer screen or then my mobile device, and I'm busy and occupied with other things where I'm that busy that I don't even, I'm not even sometimes grabbing the phone where even though that I don't have to, right? So when I'm that busy and caught up in something, in any kind of task, then it can be that some hours pass by without me having looked at the phone. And that does me very, very well, to be honest, because why would you constantly check your phone? And I've just like recently saw kind of a documentary about it or so, where they then also took a look at the averages, how many hours people are in front of just Instagram alone. And it's actually quite shocking, like on a daily basis and also then the weekly basis. I don't have my numbers, but I would also still assume that they are fairly high. And when you really think about it, the entire time that you're then in front of the screen that is unproductive is actually quite scary, to be honest. And that is time that you could better spend with other things, especially like for me, having kids at home, right? I mean, doing something like this or using that time more productively and doing, I don't know, even something in the household, right? I was just like, because we're doing something in the garden, using time there and setting things up, maybe building things, maybe educating yourself, doing a course online instead of hanging in front of the screen and just like scrolling through Instagram or anything else. And for me personally, it is always kind of a relief when I have those days where I'm forced not to check the phone or I don't even have access to it, such as we went to the swimming hole. And of course, I didn't have the phone with me and I was living the moment. And this is so important because you can easily otherwise be caught behind the screen. And just take a look at like concerts nowadays. People are always like having their screen or like the camera up, taking a look at the mobile device instead of just watching the performer. They are just watching it through then the camera so that they are able to record it, to post it somewhere else, to then get the appreciation from the peers or so.
Yeah, it's hard because I just checked my activity. I think it's come down because I think I used to be, it says my daily average is 2 hours and 32 minutes. I think my daily average used to be 3 hours plus, maybe even 3 to 4.
Still below the averages on that documentary.
No.
Yeah. There were so many people, like
I'm on it all the
5
time.
to 7 hours.
Jeez.
Yes.
Wow.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Because for us at least, Instagram is like also we're not just consumers, we are producers, and interacting with people is still like a business endeavor. So a lot of my time on Instagram, I hope the majority, but maybe it isn't, because it's hard to say, but a lot of my time is business, is productive, it's answering questions, it's replying to like people's comments and DMs, and it's producing content, and maybe I comment on a few people's to like help myself in the algorithm or something. And some of it is mindless scrolling, which is not great. I definitely do a bit of that as well, and that's the bit that I'd like to chop out more. But it's similar, like what you mentioned there. I actually said it to Charlotte, I'm like, we're terrible at taking photos when we go out, and like I love having the photos and the memories. And she was like, yeah, but it's also nice just to be here and not worry about doing that. And I'm like, yeah, it definitely is. Like it's annoying having to think about taking a photo, but it's nice having the memory. And it's the same, and I know you really relate to this because you were doing it for a period of time, like recording your workouts, even actually having someone come and record your workout is like, it's fine kind of just setting down your phone and recording it, but if you're trying to like vlog and
really
use it,
the same, right?
Yeah, it's if you're just doing it for a form video or like one video to upload to Instagram, but if you're doing it like as a like you have to record every set for a vlog, or you're having a videographer record you, it's not as fun as just going into the gym and just having that moment to yourself.
I think
just go and train.
It's them more like work instead of work out.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, exactly.
And I think this is also probably the reason why someone like Jeff Nippert, for example, went down that route of just being solely a YouTuber instead of a coach besides that. Because, of course, it was probably also more profitable to him, but also chances are that it just took up all of his time and he couldn't really focus and deliver quality work to his clients anymore.
Hi guys, Steve here. Just wanted to take a moment of your time to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we pride ourselves on providing personalized service that will take your physique and knowledge to the next level. If you're interested, check the description and sign up.
Yeah, it's because I use it as a break. You use it as a break from like working. Yeah. Whereas if you are working and then you go and record your sessions, it's like, this feels like, again, more work, especially if you try and like talk within the sessions and things like this. It's quite tiring doing that. And I know other people who have maybe listening and they've done similar, they probably feel that as well. So yeah, it's just finding that kind of fine line of balancing these things. But I completely agree with you in terms of like being the best I've ever had is like when I go on hikes with my best mate Cameron, and we're just out all day and we're just walking and talking, and I just don't check my phone at all. And then I come to check it and I'm just like, man, I so appreciate having that time away from it. So I need to do that more, where I just set my phone like away from me, like even just like chuck it, like I go to bed and I don't have my phone with me, I leave it downstairs. Do that at other times, like when I'm watching TV, like in the evening with Charlotte, don't have my phone with me, put it over there. When the advert breaks are on, we can have a chat versus going on our phones. Like you said, being mindful and present. And in some ways, I'm jealous of you having your children there, because they definitely kind of keep you occupied and busy. That's not without its other stresses, though.
Yeah. They sure do. They sure do. But it's lovely to then see them going through certain things. So such as with the swimming hole. I mean, it was the first time that Tony was actually able to then. So we went to kind of baby swimming when he was 4 or 5 months old. This was still right before COVID, actually. And then we wanted to continue. COVID happened and we couldn't continue that course. So we went only to baby swimming like twice. And of course, he couldn't really recall what it's like to actually then be in a swimming hole. And it was so amazing because he had so much fun. There was, of course, this children's playground. We went there and he just had a great time. And just watching something like this is amazing. And I never want to actually miss it just because I'm watching something on the phone, to be honest.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Did you get up to anything? Did you do an Easter egg hunt? I have a feeling, I don't know.
Yeah, we did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. This time, though, not in our garden, because as already mentioned, we are setting up a new fence in our garden. So everything was kind of a little bit of a construction side. So we went to my mom-in-law and father-in-law. They have also a bigger garden. They prepared everything. They kind of hid some of the eggs, some of the gifts, so small books, and then the kids were out on an Easter hunt. And the weather was actually quite lovely as well. And also something like this. On those occasions, I always take my camera with me, because we are always keeping like a book for each and every single year. So by the end of the year, I'm setting up kind of an album for that, and it's freaking amazing to then have like very good looking pictures. It just adds some kind of something to those pictures which can't be caught on camera with something like a smartphone. I mean, if you know how to handle a smartphone, you can also take very good pictures, but there's just something about the depth of field that you can create with those cameras it just tells so much in those pictures. And this is where I'm then having my camera with me. But it's not that I have a mobile device in my hand. It's just like I'm trying to actually see and feel the moment. Whenever I see something, then I'm taking out my camera and trying to keep that moment in the sense of like taking a picture with my camera. And yeah, that's basically what we did here over the Easter weekend. And yeah, nothing else really. Right now, going back to training now properly again with my wrist. Sometimes still feeling a little bit iffy at times, so I have to be careful with certain movements. But I can already do something like dumbbell pressing. But what I've noticed there is that it's still a little bit unstable. But it's not that. It's a weird. So I don't even know how to describe it. It's more like I don't feel 100% yet. Here, I know that I can put a lot of pressure on it. I can even put a lot of pulling sensation on. When I have like a heavy dumbbell in my hand here, it feels as if it's pulling on something that is not fully attached yet and fully healed up yet. But it's just like a minor thing. My right ankle is still fucked up, unfortunately. Now, last weekend, I was able for the first time to do hack squats again. Did them very, very carefully though, with a little bit more higher up on the pad, so that I'm not experiencing that much of knee flexion, so that I'm taking a little bit of pressure off of my right ankle. I ease my way into that. That worked out just fine. But anything with like a lot of knee flexion and ankle dorsiflexion is still something that I'm right now not capable of, but it's kind of, I'm slowly getting back to normal now. And even for my pulling movements, so rowing movements, I can actually load it pretty heavily again, and I'm now already kind of hitting new PRs here on this off season, so this is good for the upper body. And yeah, I can at least bring the intensity again.
That's really, I bet it's just a relief when you can leave a session feeling like you've done a good workout, rather than leave your session like I'm a bit in pain and uncomfortable, and my muscles don't really feel as tired as they should do. So, are you back in a surplus now?
Yes.
Have you moved that? Cool.
Yeah.
I bet that's nice, having a bit more food.
Still in the 76s now. And yeah, slowly moving up, taking the time. Don't need to rush it, especially now with everything that went on in terms of the injury and stuff. So I'm in no rush whatsoever when it comes to pushing my body weight up. It's like you, right? In the last off season, when people asked you, when are you finally reaching 200 pounds? It's not that you're chasing a body weight. It's that you're chasing like the performance. And when the performance is actually there, then, and the caloric surplus is all right and sufficient, then everything else will fall in place afterwards, and you don't have to force anything. So,
yeah, I hope I don't have to force any food. I don't really want to get into that position again. We'll see where I go. I'm still in like two minds of how productive that is, but I think I've mentioned this before, when you boil it down to the thing that is driving gym performance the thing that's driving muscle growth is gym performance. So if you can be leaner and lighter and drive gym performance, why wouldn't you do that? So if I, like, at this body weight, and since I've hit like 180 pounds, I still feel good and I can drive gym performance, why would I push up to a point where maybe I can still drive gym performance, but I feel like utter shite most of the time?
But you look big, man. Like big and lean still. I think that this off season will once again be very productive for you. Like, honestly.
Yeah, we'll have to see. So I don't know, maybe I might move out of that sweet spot where I look big and still pretty lean, and I start just moving into the position where I just look big. Yeah. But I don't want that to hold me back. I want to continue just pushing up bigger weights, enjoying that, because, like, I don't know, I just need my legs in particular to come. I just need everything to come up, because if I'm going to be competitive, it's funny, I was just thinking today, like, I almost don't like, I'm going to share this because I think it's important to share it. With how my last season went, I was just thinking about it today, and I was like, in some ways, I'm tempted to just call it. In some ways, I'm tempted just to be like, I'm going to invest less time into this bodybuilding thing, because I gave it my all for a decade. I came second in the world with amateurs. Don't think the chances of me going pro are super high, and let's leave it there because it's taking a lot of investment. Like, that's is a tempting offer. That's what I'm trying to say, because the amount you need to put in to just maintain is so little, and there's other things in life I could put that time and effort into if I wanted to. But the way I have been taking it, and the way I would just assumed I would take it, is that season is driving me ever more, like, to see how far the physique has come, to now go pro and give it everything. And that's the way I'm going to go, because I'd kind of weighed up both options. I was like, why would I stop? Like, I'm still on the up. I'm still on the rise. I'm still enjoying it. That's the most important thing. And this next time I compete will probably be the telling. Like, if I kind of have plateaued in terms of I just do as well as I did last time, or even like a little bit worse because the scenes just got more competitive, then it's like, well, you really gave it a fucking good shot. Now life you can go down a different route, maybe slightly. Or maybe I'll do incredibly well, and then I can, like, there's that what Alberto Nunez always says, there's levels to bodybuilding. There definitely is. Like, you see it with people, and there's levels. So maybe I am able to level up. But also, just, we know, and the longer you're in this, again, I just saw this on Alberto's story. He was answering a question. He was like, the more you're in this, and you see this with experienced people who have kind of trained a lot of people or seen a lot of competitors, it's the sport of bodybuilding is so influenced by genetics, it's unbelievable. Yeah. Like, more than any other sport, it's probably the most. And if you haven't got, like, I'm never going to be the top of the top. It's just not going to happen. Just like I can't be a pro basketball player or footballer. So it's like, you have to, as long as I'm enjoying it, investing the amount I'm investing, I'm going to keep going for it. But yeah, it's just interesting. That thought did come into my mind where I was like, is this, am I still getting what I want from it? And I think it's important to assess that now and then, to, like, assess you, like, because there's trade-offs and there's diminishing returns. So anyway, just thought I'd share that.
Yeah, no, I think it's very much appreciated that you're sharing stuff like this, especially to the outsider. It may always look like, yeah, he's pushing, he's dedicated, etc., which still is the case, of course. I'm not saying that you aren't, but even you have sometimes then the doubts or thinking, like, considering whether it's worth it or not. And the way that I see it, though, is, when do you have your productive years when it comes to bodybuilding? Probably up to your 40s, maybe then mid-40s. Everything after that is kind of then slowly declining. I mean, you can still keep and maintain a very, very good performance and also a very good physique, but it's not that you will probably push it as much as you did when you were younger. And also, you don't really see yourself as competitive probably, unless you are aiming to do something like masters above 40s or so, right? So the way that I see it is, you have probably then the most productive years up until the age of then the end of 30s. So why not then give it an honest shot there and try to make it happen up until then? Because after that, you still have, like, hopefully 40 more years in you, or even 50 more years in you when it comes to your life. And you can then also there focus on other things as well, while still putting a little bit of work into things. And it's like I said, the amount that you need to maintain the physique is actually very, very, very little, or very small of the effort that you need to put forth. And if you then still want to make progress, that means that you are then, or need to do a little bit more than this, right? It doesn't really need to be a lot then. And I think looking at it from this perspective, it shouldn't be overly consuming for you, not even now. It should be more like a joy and more like a goal setting, because if you also really think about it, so many people are walking around in hopes that they are finding something that they are passionate for and that they are good at, and never really find anything alike. And they are just like dissatisfied the entire time because they see other talented people around them having found something that they are burning for, and they themselves don't have anything to be burning for that. And I think it's a gift kind of to have something that you're passionate about. And because of that, I think instead of then looking at it from a perspective of doubting things, which I think is absolutely, once again, all right, I would turn it around and be like, okay, I have like a couple of years probably where I can fully embrace it and enjoy it. And then afterwards, it's just a hobby any longer then. Right now, you can maybe even reward yourself and having like a competitive nature to it. And afterwards, it's going back to what it is that you just want to do. Lifting a little bit, right? And then maybe also a little bit of traveling and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's like this in many areas in life where you get into this position where people have this kind of false perception of, and I don't know where this necessarily comes from, where you can like, people talk about outworking genetics, or like if you work hard enough at anything, you can achieve whatever you want. And I like these thoughts and beliefs because they're not limiting, self-limiting. But the reality is, it's not fucking true. No one listening, I doubt anyone listening is ever going to be as fast as Usain Bolt. You're just not, because you're not Usain Bolt. You could work harder than him. You're just never going to get there. So I'm sure you get this as well, Pascal, and I'm sure a lot of the listeners get it, where, especially because the people listening are probably those who are not the genetically blessed, the ones who just get results almost despite what they do, but they are thinkers because they have to think to see results. And they listen to us because we're also those people. And I look sometimes and I see these like young 20-year-olds and they have better physique than I do, and they've been training maybe a couple of years. And I'm just like, holy fuck, and they get like loads of clout and people follow them, and they, I don't know, even get potentially better, not better, let me reframe that, more competitive clients than what we maybe get. And it frustrates me because I'm like, if only, but I think we wouldn't be like, every bit of life experience makes you who you are, and you have an impact on the various people. And I certainly wouldn't take anything back, because I don't think we wouldn't be the coaches we are if we had it kind of easier, if that made sense. I'm not trying to make out as if we have like dog shit genetics and we're like the worst responders ever, but like, especially for you recently, like all those challenges you've gone through, but that only makes you a better coach to help people through tougher times. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that, but that's just where you have those times where you just like, you have those doubts.
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of my athletes, he's now sick, and he was supposed to actually step on the bodybuilding stage here on the weekend. And I say like, yeah, it is what it is. Right? Yeah. I know what this sounds like. It sounds like as if I don't care or so, but it isn't. It couldn't be further from the truth. It's just the fact and a matter of reality now that this is the situation. And instead of moaning about it, instead of being sad or desperate about it, we have to accept it. And we have to make the best of this situation and try to maybe come up with a different solution or a plan moving forward. And we can't really go back in time and change the past. It's not possible. So why should we really be so frustrated about a situation like this? And to what it is that you said about then the genetics, and you can outwork something like genetics. I mean, human psychology is a very, very funny thing, because especially when it comes to propaganda, the more often you repeat the same thing, especially in a vacuum, when you only repeat one thing or talk about this, it creates something in the human psychology that you're then starting to believe and only see that as a reality and as fact. This is what propaganda is all about, and especially like the Nazis have made very, very heavy use of that in the before the Second World War, and then during the Second World War. And it's great when you really think about it, and everyone would now be like, that could never happen to us or me. Of course, we are living in something like this in our small echo chambers when it comes to social media, because the algorithms are exactly doing that to you. They are suggesting videos and topics and content based on the things that you're clicking and interested in, and it will lead you down that echo chamber, and also can make you quite more extreme overall, because then you find like conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff, and you are not getting anything outside of that echo chamber anymore. And when it then comes to the thing that you brought up about you can outwork genetics, it's just a lie that has been promoted over the past decades already. And maybe it stems still from our parent generation who that has given it over to us and saying like, you are a very, very unique individual. You can become everything that you want. And we started to believe that, and that is simply not true. But that also, once we acknowledge that this isn't true, we are a little bit more free in our choices, and we are free in finally enjoying the things that we are doing, instead of always starting something with the mentality and mindset of like, I want to be the very best. That would actually take away the joy in the process itself. Most of the time we are starting a hobby not because we want to be the very best, but because we freaking like that. And maybe then throughout that journey, we come to the realization that we want to become better. But that doesn't mean that we are striving to become the very best. And I know that back then when we've talked about it, of like, I don't know, in one of the episodes, and I don't know the topic that we've discussed, someone or some people were saying like, I don't see the point in pursuing something if you're not striving to become the very best. What fucking prerequisite is that to start something? Then probably chances are you shouldn't do anything at all. Anything at all. Because chances are you will never be the very best in anything in life. Because there will always be someone out there who's better than you. Right? So I think that realizing that it's not about being the very best, and also it's not necessarily about then outworking, for example, the genetics, because it's a lie that we tend to believe, can make you more free of enjoying the things that you're doing. And in our regards, it's kind of bodybuilding. And that's why I'm still pursuing that, independent of who I am, what I'm capable of doing. I just love it to go to the gym and have a basically good time, even though that is super monotonous, going into the gym each and every single time, doing the same shit each and every single time. And that, with me not being a very, very good bodybuilder overall, I still enjoy it.
Hey, Pascal here. I just quickly wanted to remind you of our online coaching service. At Revive Stronger, we put a huge emphasis on the personal aspect of our coaching. And if you want to take your physique and knowledge to the next level, hit the link in the description below.
I think that's really well said. And I hope it's not taking people. I think it's what you said there. It's that kind of, because I think if people thought that no matter what you do, if you work hard enough, you'll be the best, or you can be anything you want, the number of people that will try and then fail is almost everyone. And then what do? You give up and you're like, oh, I can't be anything then. Like I'm a piece of crap. Like, and it's like likely if you put in a lot of hard work and effort, you can be very, very good at something, because the average person probably doesn't put in as much hard work and effort into like that goal. And then you can be above average at that thing. But to say that, yeah, you can be, I don't know, like the world's best at whatever, it's just, that's a false target for most people.
And especially when it comes to bodybuilding, just think about it. Bodybuilding is still such a small sport in comparison to other sports. And yet millions of people aspire to actually be on the Olympia stage. And there are only like a handful of people ever making it there. Okay, a handful is a little bit too low, but you get the idea. Just a minimum amount of people actually making it to stage there. Right? Out of a couple of millions. Right? And that's the thing. And there are even other things like take, I don't know, professional football or so. or other sports that are way more popular than this, the chances that you're becoming one of the great, very low, very low. But that doesn't mean that you can't really play football or, I don't know, do whatever, riding the bicycle, just because you can't really participate at Tour de France or so. You can still ride a bicycle if you want to.
And I think for a lot of people, at least my bodybuilding career has been just like this. So as long as you're persistent and consistent, which are basically the same thing, with nailing things kind of the majority of the time, you can overtake a lot of people, because a lot of people struggle with that consistency and that ability. I can't remember. I think it was like a McDonald's documentary, and it was like from the guy, like I can't remember his first name, but he's the Croc, and he like created the franchise that was McDonald's, and his kind of philosophy was being persistent. He wasn't like a world-class salesman or anything like this. He just kept freaking going and talking to people and putting in the work and the effort. And now McDonald's is like the biggest fast food chain and like making some of the most money in the world there is. And it's just because this guy who was not like spectacular, he was just fucking persistent. And so I do think there's something to that element, because there are people who aren't persistent, but it's like our philosophy is essentially put in your best effort and you'll get the results, like the best results you could ever hope for. Yeah. And then you just have to assess now and then, are you enjoying the process? And so long as you're enjoying the process, then it's probably worth the effort you're putting in.
But you also have to be realistic about then the potential outcome, because I think that there's always kind of a weighted ratio of, like, you took the example now of McDonald's. I think when it's a business endeavor, chances are that you can make it with just persistence and also just like hard work and a great idea, maybe. All right. So if you then put in a lot of work and effort, then most likely you will be rewarded to a significant extent. However, when we're then having the weighted ratio of like when genetics come into play, such as sports or other talented skills, the chances may actually be lower when you're not talented, i.e. when you don't have the genetics. And then you can even try to outperform everyone else. The ones with the talent and the genetics may still end up in the first place instead of you. And when it comes to business endeavors, I think that you can actually be the one who's just like working his butt off and still end up in the first place, where I don't think that this is necessarily the case when other things come into play that are given to you basically by birth.
Yeah, that's fair, because I think Valentin Tambosi, I don't know if you saw his post, it's really good. Essentially, you talked about how important genetics are to bodybuilding. And he just went over various aspects of it. It's like, if you don't have this, if you don't have elements of this, you are going to struggle to go pro. And he just talked about like things that are given to you at birth, essentially, like bone structure. What is your shoulder width to your waist? Like, if you don't have wide shoulders and a small, you know this person who, and this is the thing that gets me the most, and it upsets me every time I look in the mirror. I stand there and I'm like, I just look like this. I always say I look like SpongeBob. Just look like this rectangle block. I'm like, you see those people all the time, and these are the people with like this element at least of genetic potential. Actually, your client you posted up, Sam, like literally the other day. If he stands in front of the mirror relaxed, I bet you he looks like he's doing a front relaxed. His lats are popping, his delts are popping, his waist is real small, his quads are sweeping. I have none of that. None of it. Yep. I just look like a dude who's like chunky, essentially. Yeah. And there's other elements. So like bicep insert, or not even, I'm saying bicep insertions because I have good bicep insertions. So, but if you have like different muscle bellies, muscle insertions, all these various aspects, which are like baseline genetics, you can't do anything about that. Whereas like, I think effort and like the amount you work and how hard you can work, that is probably slightly genetically based, but you can also, it's also kind of a bit of a skill, and you can get better at working hard, or you can get a coach who's going to make you work hard or whatever it is. Whereas I might have that to my favor, but all these other things I can't do anything about that stack up against you. So yeah, I completely see what you're saying. So I don't know where I was going with that, but I thought that post was it just highlighted a lot of things. I think some people, like, I never want to be that person that's like blames my genetics. No, it's not what I'm doing. It's just about being actual realistic about what you have as a baseline.
No, absolutely. And by the way, Valentin also made a great post, and now that we are talking about it, about like stepping on stage, which he makes a lot of posts where I'm just like, I resonate with that, especially because he's just like bringing up the honest truth of like, this is it. Sorry to bring it or give it to you straight, but that's just reality, instead of sugarcoating it or be the person who's giving out trophies to everyone in the room of like, you're a winner, you're a winner, you're a winner. No, it's good to lose and sometimes fall straight on your face. Especially as a kid, I don't think there's any kind of value in actually giving trophies to anyone. I think it's good to lose. I think you learn from mistakes the most, especially painful mistakes. This is just also their human psychology. This was made to protect you to not do the same mistakes in nature again, which could actually then cost you your life. That's why those kind of mistakes and the failures and the things that don't really feel comfortable, they stink so much. And I think that there's an inherent value in that as well. But he made a post about like, not everyone has any kind of business stepping on the bodybuilding stage.
Might be the same post.
Oh, really? Could.
It might have been.
Could be. Yeah. Maybe I'm just forgetting that part about the genetics. But yeah, and I do think that he has a very, very solid point, especially when it comes to, I see so many people wanting to step on the bodybuilding stage after like 1, 2, or 3 years of proper training even. I think that may still be too little, especially you're not a practiced dieter. So I see it all the time. You don't really know what it's like to actually get to a leaner state or a more dieted state. And when you're already struggling with hunger at around, I don't know, 2,400 calories, I'm just like, this is probably going to be a tough challenge for you, especially when your body fat is then still above 10% or so. Right, and this is most of the time the case for a lot of unexperienced lifters who haven't got the muscle mass to really then stand out, so press against the skin. That's why they have to probably even dig further in terms of body fat percentages and still don't look great. So maybe you don't really have any kind of business on stepping on to the bodybuilding stage as of yet. That doesn't mean that you can't in the future, but maybe just put in more time and effort instead of actually making this just a thing because you've seen so many other people doing it over on Instagram or so.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's something you need to be very much prepared for in so many ways and have some experience getting uncomfortable in terms of leanness probably at some point, or maybe you can have a really good coach on your side who can help guide you there, but that's still, even then, is going to be challenging because you'll come across things and you'll have doubts and questions and poor expectations and things like this. And I do think the first time, generally, actually, you had the kind of luxury in some ways of the first time you competed, you'd already kind of competed but hadn't got quite there a few times.
Yeah.
So you kind of had that experience.
But that's what I'm also referring to some extent. I have the experience and went through the first time that I tried it in 2017. I wasn't ready for that, neither from a mental perspective nor from a physical perspective. I didn't really have the muscle mass to really present something. Right? And I would have made a fool of myself, basically. Of course, that no one would have told me that I'm making a fool of myself. But now looking back in hindsight, I would have probably been like, no, this wasn't the right time to step on the stage. And sometimes you will only realize that in hindsight. Most of the time, that's the case in life with everything that we're going through, that you will first recognize that something wasn't the right choice when you went through it or went with it. But I can just tell you, and this is why we are coaches as well. We want to prevent that people are making the same mistakes that we did in the past. And that's also why a coach can be so valuable. And if then someone is still doing the same mistakes while having a coach by their side, and that coach has done that mistake, then what are you even doing, right? I mean, I just think that more people should take more time before they are then even considering stepping on the bodybuilding stage, spending quality time in building a solid foundation first in terms of muscle mass so that you have something to show for. You also, by that, have a better time. You will actually be more proud of yourself, of what it is that you can present, and not come off the bodybuilding stage, be disappointed because you just look stringy and not really as if you belong up there. And then secondary, you had time of practicing, going through cyclical phases of gaining and cutting and gaining and cutting, and how to maintain, etc., etc. So often it's more of a thing like, in rare cases, 5 years as a minimum. And often that isn't enough. Often it's more like everything between 5 to 10 years as a first timer.
Yeah, I think it's rare that people leave it that long.
I know, but I think that they would benefit from that. Most of them, of course. We've talked about the genetic part of the thing. I know people, especially like last year, GmbF, and I know that he's listening. He's now also on the GmbF front page, or like the poster, because he won the overall, and he was a first timer. And he had crazy conditioning, crazy amount of muscle mass, right? But he's the exception. And that's basically also the gist of what it is that we've talked about. Yeah. What's the likelihood that you are the one who will then stand up there, right? What's the likelihood that you are one of the very, very few? Chance, just from a statistics perspective, is very, very low. And if you are, then you know. Then you really, really know. It's not about like, I'm uncertain about it. Right? You know because other people told you how freaking insane you are. Or you take a look at the mirror and be like, yeah, I mean, if I compare myself to other people, I'm actually quite impressive, right? Instead of walking around the bushes and be like, no. Everyone who's like that, no, I'm not good. You know that you're good when you're good. And if you don't know, then chances are you aren't. And that's all right.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And the only thing I would say, to kind of be a little bit of devil's advocate in some ways, but I think you'd agree with this, is you said about how important failures can be. And I do think even those who, like, for some people, it might be that they do step on stage too early and they kind of fail in terms of, I don't know, their expectation of how they're going to do, or they don't represent themselves as how they would like to. And then that's enough to then convince them to take, like, almost, for me, for example, I had to get like one bad injury to then realize, fuck, I really need to take care of my form and technique and allow for recovery. Sometimes you have to get burnt to, like, get that life lesson. Because I probably competed, I think, as a novice. I still think I competed, like, I looked okay as a novice. Like, I don't know. I always find it hard to know how many years I trained at that point, because I kind of trained for 4 years, had an injury and that accident which set me back. And then I trained like a couple of years. So I guess maybe I trained 5 on like average potentially at that time at most. But yeah, you want to, like you said, you just want to have that experience under your belt and have something you're going to be proud about, that you're going to be able to represent on stage. And I think some people do leave it, like they do it too early. But I also think sometimes you just, if you're in that position where you're kind of like, should I, shouldn't I? And you've been putting off a few years. If you've been investing those few years and you have already beforehand, maybe you just need to just fucking take the plunge as well.
I mean, but then we are already talking about a couple of years of training under your belt, right?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
So what I'm saying is always just my opinion. Everyone can do with their lives what they please, right? And if you think that it's a good idea to step on the bodybuilding stage after 2 years, hey, so be it. If you want to wear a string tanga, hey, so be my guest, do it.
What's that?
A string?
A string tanga.
Yeah. I was just bringing up, like, whatever you want to do with your life. If you want to put up makeup,
I wanted to know what that was.
Right, that do whatever you want to do with that. We are just like 2 dudes on the internet talking about like training and nutrition here in a very, very secure place of London and Berlin. And what do we know about life in reality, right? But this is, either you can take advice on something like this or you don't, right? And then you make your own experiences and make your own choices. And that's absolutely fine as well. What I just want to do is, of course, give a little bit of guidance as well. And if someone is then taking that advice, it's entirely up to them.
For sure. And I think actually that's a really good, if you're unsure, I think it's always a great idea to reach out to like a respectable coach in their field, like us, like Val, and be like, what do you think? Do you think I'm ready to, like, do you think I've got it? Because that's always it's a sure way to get a decent answer.
But be prepared for an answer that you may not like.
That's true also, yeah.
Sometimes it's like that people just want to hear one thing. They are actually reaching out to a lot of professionals.
Yeah, don't do that.
And they are only going with that one, or with the answer that they wanted
Confirms
to hear.
Bias,
and maybe like they reach out to 10 professionals, 9 of them tell them like no, and one person says like yes, and they are going with a yes. So of course, when you do something like this, be prepared to get an answer that may not match what it is that you're looking for. And then also take that answer as it is.
Yeah. And I say it's hard to say this, like, it's because as it's become very evident, at least recently to me, the field of, like, and we knew this anyway, online coaching is fraught with scandals and people who should not be coaches. But yeah, please try and ask someone who you don't think is just going to say, yeah, compete and be my client. Because there's going to be that individual who's just going to, yeah, fuck it, give me your money. We'll take you to stage and I'll ruin your life. You'll never do bodybuilding again. Please don't ask someone like that. I know it's hard to know if they're going to do that, but maybe you'll know from their answer.
No, absolutely. Cool. We haven't covered any kind of body part this time, but we had lots of things to catch up on, especially now that we've talked about genetics and all that kind of stuff. I really do hope, guys, that you've once again enjoyed the episode, that you took some kind of lessons away from it. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, leave a comment in the comment section below. Also, once again, just as a quick reminder, London seminar tickets are still live. If you want to come on the 4th and the 5th of June, go over to our website. You can find the link in the description as well. Purchase your ticket, partake in that event, and it's going to be a blast, to be honest.
I cannot wait. It's going to be very, very exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. So hopefully we'll see as many friendly faces there as possible. Yeah. And I'm excited for it. And actually, I just wanted to say on the talking about the muscle groups, I've been getting a lot of positive feedback over on like Instagram. People letting me know that they've been really enjoying it. Also, quite a few of my clients have said they've been listening to it and like taking a few pointers away. So that's really cool.
I had the same thing as well. Especially like lots of my athletes were like, oh yeah, the tip that you gave over on that podcast about, for example, the last one with the chest of using the D handles for then the pack deck. I've talked about it there, right? I did.
Sure.
Was very, very helpful. Never really thought about it, or so things like those small minor things can be super, super helpful and valuable. So yeah, happy that you guys enjoyed, and of course we will make sure to actually then cover the other body parts as well here over the next couple of weeks.
Cheers, guys. We'll talk to you soon. So I'm Steve Hall, founder of Revive Stronger and a coach of Revive Stronger.
My name is Pascal Steve. I'm the co-owner of Revive Stronger and also a coach, of course.
Revive Stronger has probably been going solidly for 3 years, roughly about 3 years.
Revive Stronger, to me, it is becoming kind of my child, my foster child. It's the gathering and getting together of like-minded people.
We've been expanding the coaching team, which is helping us help more people. But each coach can only help a certain number of people.
Right now, it's all over the place. We have YouTube, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but there isn't that community aspect behind that.
And so the next step for us is developing a membership site.
So basically, we want to create a family and a community that is then benefiting from another.
A really cool community for people within our little niche is going to be a website.
They will get early access to our podcast.
You can access us, ask us questions.
The community aspect, we have a forum there. You can ask questions, but also you can log your journey.
There's also going to be courses on there.
Courses, presentations on different topics. Discount of past seminar footage. We will log our journey as well. We'll start vlogging.
We're going to have documentaries.
Our entire athletic journey. Furthermore, they get access to an exercise video library.
The exercises that we love for hypertrophy and maximizing hypertrophy, we're going to go through those in depth, telling you how to execute them.
We kept them concise and also mobile friendly so that you can watch them in between your sets.
I'm super excited to grow this community. The amount of value that we're going to be delivering is huge. And I'd love you to be part of it.
You will get so much out of that.
I'll see you inside.